You're always beautiful in the eyes of your mom, your dad, someone that thinks the world of you. We're all beautiful to somebody.
Are you ready for an extreme makeover of the mind? With the producer and host of A Better You podcast, the transformational coach whose assignment is to challenge people to change, grow, and evolve into the individuals they were created to be. Here is Dr. Anthony McFarland, providing you with practical tools and wisdom for everyday life challenges for you to win in life, relationships, and finances.
Hey guys, Anthony McFarland here. How many of you remember this? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? I think that's from the movie Snow White, maybe? Yeah. You know, self-perception can be a beast. It can be beautiful as well. I have found over the past 28 years counseling, becoming a certified life coach maybe 20 years ago, going into transformational coaching maybe 2 years ago, that self-esteem is a challenge that comes up in most counseling and coaching sessions, whether you're in therapy or whether you're in counseling, whether it's an individual or whether it's an entrepreneur, a businessman, a businesswoman. The reality is many people are hard on themselves and truly believe that they're ugly, dumb, less than, not good enough, or consistently doubting or questioning themselves in one way or another. And yes, sometimes it has to do with childhood trauma, things that happen to us in our formative years, as well as when we become adults and we get into different types of relationships, or some extreme type of accident that happens that may mar you, scar you, whether that be leave a bruise on your spirit or a physical bruise. But I truly believe that it's true. The image you see in the mirror is actually reversed from how others see you, which can sometimes lead to a different perception of your appearance. You know, one way to get a sense of how others see you is to take photos or a video of yourself from different angles and with different lighting. You say, why is that? Well, what it'll do is it'll kind of help you see yourself from a different perspective, out of a different lens, so to speak, and understand how others might perceive you. It's also, I believe, at the same time, important to remember that how you feel about yourself and your inner qualities are just as, if not more, important than your external appearance. Oftentimes, people are constantly looking at judging people externally, right? You've heard the statement, beauty is only skin deep, right? Well, the reality is, if your inner man is beautiful, then that will show externally. If your inner man is ugly, that will show externally. Here's what I want you to understand. There's a difference between how people see you versus how you see yourself. I want to talk about self-perception. I want to talk about what it takes to maybe bring you or someone you know out of that rut of low self-esteem. I've been there. I've done that. I not only bought the ticket, I lived it. I was in the reality TV show of individuals who suffer from low self-esteem. And you may say, I do not believe that, but it's true. See, it's tempting to believe that we see ourselves the same way that others see us. But unfortunately, we will always be clouded by our own thoughts and experiences. And it's not so much about how others see us or what they think of us or how they view us. And so it's because of how we see ourselves, which can oftentimes be so clouded, we've missed some important information about ourselves along the way. There was some critical information that we didn't get on who we are and whose we are and who God created us to be, which has caused some of the blemishes, or maybe I'll just say the clouded views of how we see ourselves or even how we think of ourselves. There are a number of ways you see yourself differently than others see you. And becoming aware of those discrepancies can help you better understand why and how you see yourself. And oftentimes people people just have an unhealthy way of viewing themselves. Have you ever thought about seeing yourself the way that God sees you? Hey, you may not be ready for a goober baby pageant, but you're always beautiful in the eyes of your mom, your dad, someone that thinks the world of you. We're all beautiful to somebody. And again, maybe you're not ready for a baby pageant or a supermodel pageant, but I tell you, there is something beautiful about you. God did not make any mistakes when He created you. So with that, before we go any further, I first want to say thank you for being here. I have a huge favor to ask you before we jump into this episode on self-perception, and it would be this, and it would really make me happy if you subscribe. It's my goal to have at least 50% of the people that watch this channel be subscribers. And if you could share it with someone else, that would be great. See, it helps us bring you amazing content weekly, not once a month, not every other week, but weekly. Your support makes it happen. Together, we make it happen. Together, we help change lives. And so just take a second, please, please, please. Thank you, and subscribe. Share the link. All right. Are you ready? Let's go. Here we go, because I'm ready. I came ready. I was ready. I'm excited about this because I know a lot about this topic, this subject. One of the greatest enemies to people seeing themselves is called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is an informal syndrome that involves a person fearing that they are going to be found out or unveiled as not being as good as they really are at something. Many highly successful people are quite good at hiding their fears of failure, hiding their weaknesses. Psychologist Dorian Crawford Lover tells this story about the real heart of the issue is that the successful person needs to learn how to accept that they are good at what they do and are deserving of accolades and praises for their hard work. What did you just say? Yes. See, although there are some people who tend to inflate themselves, and we know those individuals, and I know someone saying, yeah, those are the narcissist people. Again, it's all out of low self-esteem. It's all out of people not knowing who they are. Many people devalue their capacities rather than owning their strengths and skills, which would put them in a position to not shrug off or minimize the many brilliant things that God has placed on the inside of them. I'm telling you, and I'm here to tell you, you are brilliant. You possess abilities and talents and gifts that I don't possess. And there's some things that I possess that you don't possess. That's why we all need each other. Why? Because God created us all to be a gift to one another, to help each other evolve and really walk in the greatness that He created us to walk in. There's a psychologist by the name of Dr. Manley, and he says as a result of successful people, really any individual, their self-perception lacks the honest inclusion of the qualities and capacities that are devalued or ignored. And I thought that was really powerful. There's a saying, we project who we are. As a man thinketh, so is he. I know you've heard that. And to understand that, however you think about yourself, that's what you'll project. And that's who people will see you as. Oftentimes, people see you the way that you see yourself. Understand this. A psychological projection is a defense mechanism that involves attributing to your undesirable feelings or emotions onto someone else. For example, you may really dislike, let's say, your mother-in-law. And Dr. Lee says, however you unconsciously perceive that as a feeling you can't have, you then start to project whatever that is. So instead of you believing that your mother-in-law dislikes you or she's a witch on a broom, I'm just joking. Another big way to dispel your mother's inability to show you kindness maybe or be nice to you is for you to see them in a positive light. Maybe they're the individuals that need affirmation. Maybe they're the individuals, although their ego may say differently, maybe that person is the person who really needs you to say, you know what, you're awesome. You know what, I think you're an awesome individual. So when we talk about self-perception, another big enemy to you seeing yourself in the right way is comparing yourself to what you see on social media. That's a big challenge for our youth, for kids today, for a lot of women today. Not so much men, but a lot of women do this constantly, this self-comparing of themselves to women who are in the spotlight, so to speak. Women who have 100,000, millions to spend on shaping and molding their faces and their bodies and working on their body image and, their skin and all of these things, when the reality is, let me share something with you. Just as you view them as being beautiful, guess what? You're beautiful as well. You're beautiful without tummy tuck. You're beautiful without your face being snatched or without Botox. You're beautiful. You're naturally beautiful, whether you realize it or not. Again, when you compare yourself to what you see on social media, it's going to lead to a skewed perception of what your life should be like. People used to revel in small circles about success. Dr. Crawford says the end result is reduced self-esteem, increased depression, and unnecessary dissatisfaction with our looks. Unnecessary dissatisfaction with our home. Why? You watch HGTV and you watch them put together this budget or whatever, and someone came in and did something amazing. Now you don't like your own home or your vacation options and compliments, right, that you see someone else getting that you're not getting. It actually, whether you realize it or not, causes distress and makes us perceive ourselves or what we have as less than on many different levels. This is a true misperception of the genuine self, the genuine individual that you have been created to be. It is dangerous when you continue to compare yourself. You can continue to compare your spouse, your family, your children to other people's spouses, family, children. Listen to me, each and every one of our situations are different, right? When I was a teenager, and even in the past years, again, just to be very transparent with you, because sometimes one of the things that I don't like that a lot of coaches, leaders do is they make it as if they've never had a challenge, and they just woke up wonderful and they're just the best thing next to sliced bread and they got where they're at in the blink of an eye. No, not so. When I was a teenager, the biggest truth and revelation that I found was you cannot control who will like you, who will vilify you, who will speak kindly of you, who will judge you, who will love you, who will treat you unfairly, who will support you, who will spread lies about you, or who will be your biggest fan. You can't control that. We literally cannot control how any other person is going to feel, think, or treat us. When we come to recognize that as an actual fact that we can't control those things, we can turn our focus to the only thing in this life that we actually can control, and that is how we feel about ourselves, how we view ourselves. Listen to what I'm about to say to you. Be proud of who you are and not ashamed of how someone else sees you. Let me share something with you. I've been in some situations that people totally have me wrong. They have a skewed view of me. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened to me. And it's very hurtful for someone to view you in a light that's the furthest thing from the truth. I learned that lesson many years ago after going through a series of very difficult events in my life. As a kid, as a teenager, as an adult, I had come through a very unhappy and rough time in my professional life. and a strained relationship. I had spent years trying to please other people, wanting specific people, I don't know about you, to like me. And in my professional career, there was this VP that I wanted to really like me and recognize the good in me. And I had spent years trying to be smart enough or good enough or successful enough at doing what it is that I did within that organization. Or how about this, just enough, and all those other enoughs that people were expecting from me, that individual was expecting from me, only to get a negative outcome. Yet, as hard as I tried, there was always someone who would tell me, watch this, you're not cutting it. You're not good enough. And then my view of myself will fall completely apart. Why? Because I was wanting acceptance from this person. I was wanting acceptance from this family member. I was wanting acceptance from this person in my circle, not realizing that maybe that wasn't my circle. That wasn't my place, right? They weren't a good fit for me. Not so much I wasn't a good fit for them, because they were really missing out on the gift that I was and that I was there to be, that I sincerely purposed to be. I purposely wanted to make a difference. I purposely wanted to play big, watch this, and produce big and be productive and hit the ball out of the park every day, every week, and be announced as employee of the month. And I realized it just made me feel horrible, and discouraged. And I would allow myself to believe someone else's view of me was in fact true, rather than looking in the mirror and knowing for myself who that guy was, and was staring back at me in that mirror saying, you know what? You are enough. You are good enough, right? You are all of that. Now, I know when some people go down that lane and they say, oh, I don't want to appear to be stuck on myself or whatever. Let me share something with you. If you're not going to cheer yourself, if you're not going to think highly of yourself, who else is? It's not always easy to love and accept yourself for who you truly are. Why? Because you see all your flaws. It's like when you get out of the shower, you get out of the bathtub, right? Man, you see the bulges, you see the little imperfections. You know that you're not perfect, right? But who is? Your experience has probably convinced you that your identity is shaped by how you look, how you perform, what you have achieved, regardless of your past or present day flaws. God sees you for who you really are and who he created you to be. And here's the good news. He likes what he sees. You know why? He didn't make any mistakes when he created you. I'll say it again. When you wake up in the morning, God likes who he sees. You know why? He created you to be who you are. And it's okay to embrace yourself and be your most authentic self. Again, how others see you isn't important. How you see yourself means everything. And how you decide to walk in new truth about who you are, to the point that you show up different and authentic every day means everything. So it's about you waking up in the morning and saying, hello, Anthony McFarland. Hello, world. Here I come. I'm going to show up big. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to be my best. I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be. And if I'm not good enough for somebody, oh, well, I understand. You have to understand that you're not everybody's flavor. You're not everybody's choice. And it's okay. Just because you didn't make it onto the Lakers, that doesn't mean that you're not a good, ball player. Just means that wasn't the place for you. Just because the Celtics didn't draft you, it doesn't mean that you're not a good athlete. It just means, watch this, they were looking for something else. I read a blog by Amy Anderson, and she said, by seeking other people's approval of me, I had literally given away my ability to control knowing who I was. I had given up all ability to control my own happiness by placing that power in the hands of anyone who wanted to form opinions about me. I thought that was powerful. She said, I felt helpless Then one day, a wise counselor helped me to see that as long as I cared about what other people thought of me, I was never going to have true confidence in myself because I literally could not control other people's judgments about me. And the fact is that other people are never equipped to pass fair judgment on us because they are not God. Hello, did you get that? And God is the only one equipped to pass fair judgments. And so she said the counselor had actually helped her to realize that she needed to let go completely of caring or worrying about what anyone else thought about her and started focusing entirely on what she thought of herself. And I love it. One of the things that she said she had to first block out everyone else's opinion of her and instead focus all of her attention on being the girl that she wanted God to see in her, because God was the only one that she needed to worry about pleasing, and pleasing him is something she had total control over. And suddenly she said she no longer felt helpless. Because here's another truth, my friend. You don't have to fight for God to see you the way that you want to see him, because he created you the way that he needs for you to see and accept yourself. And again, I'll say it again. When God created you, he didn't create no mess. He didn't create a wreck. He didn't create someone helpless. Let me share something with you. He didn't create someone inferior. Listen to me. God has not given you a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind. When he created you, he knew what he was doing. And there was something else that she said. She said her life changed drastically after she got that epiphany, after she got that revelation that God was okay with her. God loved who he created. And she said she began to live a life focused on doing the best she could do each day. And she no longer needed to compete with anyone else because God isn't going to judge her on comparative basis to anyone else. God is going to judge her, she said. God wasn't going to judge her on being her best. All she had to do is just purpose to be what God created her to be. And she had succumbed to that fact that as long as she understood who God was and who she was to God and what she meant to God and what God meant to her, she was good. She was good. She was good. And she wasn't concerned about anybody else judging her because God wasn't looking to judge her. God had already picked her. And so it's important that you come to this place where you start to pick yourself. Watch this, irregardless of your mistakes. And then say, hey, you know what? I'm big enough to say, I need to learn from my mistakes. I need to work on my imperfections so that I can move forward as a better person, determined not to make the same mistakes, right? Or have the same frailties. And not look at herself as an imperfect person, but a perfect person in Christ. And so one of the things that she shared was how it was up to her and God to make the most of her gifts and her talents, not on a comparison with other people's talents. Let me share something with you. God is going to judge you and me in a way that you and I can't even conceive. But I don't want us to look at, and I don't want you to look at God being this judge that's sitting on the throne looking to judge you at every turn. Yes, we all will give an account when we get before him of what we did with our lives, how we fulfilled our purpose. If we mismanaged our lives, we're going to have to give an answer for that. If we mismanage what God entrusted to us, we're going to have to give an account for that. But one of the things that I like that she said, as she focused all of her efforts only on pleasing God and letting go of anyone else who was not pleased with her or, she didn't make the cut with, her entire life changed. So the distractions and discouragement of others that held her back previously all of a sudden started to crumble and melt away. And she said how her confidence grew and her talents and abilities started to blossom in ways that she could never imagine. She said her life was full of blessings beyond measure in every aspect. But most of all, here's what she said that I love. She said she had been blessed with the feeling of peace. that comes from understanding that God's opinion is the only opinion that she needed to focus on. You know, there's this thing called success therapy. The success of therapy or coaching is often characterized by the client's desire and willingness to attempt to see themselves as others do, while letting go of inaccurate perceptions of the self. See, oftentimes the perceptions that we have of ourselves is due to other people's words, other people's treatment of us. And so developing self-awareness means being honest while examining both the good and quite frankly, bad characteristics that make up the whole person that we are, right? So it's important that we're self-reflective so we can look at and be honest with ourselves on things that we need to work on, right? But it is easy and sometimes helpful to turn a blind eye to the flaws, to the weaknesses, and the failures. What you focus on the most will grow. How about focus on your strengths? How about focus on all the beautiful things about you? And when all of this is done, all the time, you're bound to something beautiful. But if you're focusing on the flaws and the weaknesses and the failures all the time, you're bound to become something that you don't like. You don't like. And if you don't like you, it's going to be tough for other people to like you. So it's important for you to start liking yourself. It's important for you to start seeing yourself through a different lens. I have some 3D glasses that I want you to get. And I'm going to tell you something. When you put on those 3D glasses, you'll start to see yourself from a God dimension that you've never seen before and see the beautiful person that God created you to be. You're beautiful, you're unique, you're talented, you're great, you're wonderful, you're awesome. You're everything that God created you to be. Now I want you to accept that. I want you to own that and stop looking through wrong windows and putting on wrong prescription glasses. There's a theory called the Johari window. And the Johari window is one really helpful way to better understand the concept of how we imagine ourselves and how others see us. It's named after the two who first described it, Joe Luft and Harry Ingram. You can look it up for yourself. And so the thought process is to think of yourself and imagine the size of your personal quadrants. And so the Johari window, it gives you a window and it's like a chart of the known self and then the unknown self. And so the unknown self is that to others, the public, right? Or the untold things that people don't know, which are secret. So when you look at that quadrant, it just shows you the inner and outer views. And so when you look at the public self is always on display. It is what we willingly reveal about ourselves to others throughout conversations, how we dress, how we show up, our sense of humor, our attitude, our demeanor, our behavior, and the decisions that we make. And so it's important to understand how much you reveal to others when you open your mouth, how much you reveal to others when you show up. I have a question for you. Are you conscious of how you show up? So this quadrant that they talk about is huge because you share everything to everyone, or it's minuscule because you are very private in some respects. So there's that private side, things that people don't know that haven't been revealed, right? So it is important to understand your comfort level with the boundaries you create with others. And I know many people who are unaware and are unhappy with their created boundaries, such as being shy and private. Oftentimes, those individuals are privately very lonely, as well as to the other extreme, the outgoing person who is really embarrassed with how much they reveal to others about themselves. Again, it's understanding how these windows work, the external, the public, the internal, the private, understanding the dynamics of how this works. And so there's what's called the blind self. The blind self is what others see in us, but we fail to see ourselves. And so when this quadrant is too big, a lot of the interpersonal problems happen, and we just don't know why certain things are happening to us. It's often the area of focus in therapy that these blind spots often cause us to become the focus of, certain narratives. Do you see what she was wearing. You get these narratives. Do you see what she was wearing? You see what he had on? How inappropriate was that? You hear those kind of conversations all the time. He is such a big mouth, know-it-all. He's a narcissist. Why can't he see that people get so annoyed with his ramblings? He just talks too much. These are all narratives, right? And then you have these narratives, private narratives about people, about how people don't think highly of them, or judgmental. You've seen it. You've done it. I'm sure you've probably even participated in it. She's so negative. Matter of fact, the other day, I just unconsciously, and I was like, this person is always negative. They're always a pessimist. And they always have they're always complaining about something. And they don't understand at the same time how they're ruining the mood of everybody else, or they're just putting a damper on everything. So again, it's you also, it's each of us understanding how to view ourselves and how to work on the things that we can work on and improve, so that there will be a different storyline. There will be a different narrative about who we are. Not that we're trying to get acceptance, but we have the proper self-perspective, and we're able to really own who we are and walk in the greatness of that, because we've also done the work. In that quadrant, I'll share this one more thing with you. And there's 4 quadrants, and the third quadrant is the secret self. And the secret self are the things that we are aware of, but don't share them with others. And sometimes we make the mistake of hiding things that need to be shared. And that's why there's misunderstandings, or a screwed view, or a clouded view or judgment about you. Because if you would have just shared that, something about your secret self that you're keeping away from everybody, then there would be a different understanding or view of you. Does that make sense? And then, I'll go on and share with you that 4th quadrant is the unconscious self. And the unconscious self entails the characteristics that are hidden to the self and others. So not only are you unaware of it, they're unaware of it as well. I call it hidden treasure. And oftentimes, many of us, we have hidden treasure that we need somebody else to help us discover. And I tell people all the time, sometimes there's seasons where you need to rediscover you. You need to have another aha or light bulb moment about who you were created to be, who you truly are. And that's why doing the personal work, when I say personal work, whether that's therapy or coaching, is so important. So when I talk about a better you, that's the objective, for me to help you be a better you, the greatest version of yourself that God has created. I'll say this to you, and then we'll wrap it up. If you don't squeeze any more juice out of this lesson, this session, remember these 3 things, and don't ever forget it. Don't ever, 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 ever forget it. Culture will try to captivate you as well as your family and tell you a story about yourself that's the furthest thing from the truth. Culture, if you're not careful, will try to change your identity, who God really created you to be. And there's so many people who allow culture, they allow circles, they allow networks, they allow the wrong people groups to change their identity, and they become someone who God never intended for them to be. And with that, I don't know who you are, but here's the third thing that I want you to get. If you don't know who you are, you'll buy anybody's story or picture of who they think you are. So whatever you do, it's so important, whether you're an employee, whether you're a boss, whether you're a leader, whether you're a service person, that you get the right self-perception of who you are. And sometimes that requires you checking in, going to a specialist, and getting your lens adjusted so that you can see yourself the way that God created you to be. And who you are is a wonderful you. So if this session has helped you in any way, I encourage you to click like, share, as well as you can do a discovery call with me, and I'll be more than happy to have a complimentary session with you to assist you in discovering your true self. God bless you until the next time. When there's a better you, and there's a better me, there's a better us, and there's a better world. Bye-bye. Interestingly,
Thank you for tuning in to A Better You program with Anthony McFarland. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.